I want to say asante. I would believe that everybody on this call are Kenyans that love Kenya, and we are proud to be Kenyans, whether we are Kenyan Americans, Kenyan UKanians. I don't know if there's such thing, but wherever you are around the world, it's such a pleasure to be amongst the diaspora of the Kenyan people. And so, first of all, yes, asante sana for the invitation to join you today for this 9th annual general meeting of the Stoke Diaspora SACCO. And like the chairman said, I truly wish I was there with you in person, because there's something about gathering. There's something about being physically there with one another. Unfortunately, for those of you who know Minnesota weather, it decided to remind us who's really in charge. I was ready to travel. I even went to the airport the day before because I was like, this weather is not going to allow me to fly. But the flights had other plans, and so please accept my sincere apologies for not being there physically. But with that said, nowadays we say technology has saved us, and so I am grateful to still join you virtually. And before I begin, let me quickly follow proper Kenyan protocol. Even if I'm not joining you there, even if I'm joining you from the screen, I want to recognize the leadership of Stoke Diaspora SACCO, the board, the management team, the partners, and all of the dedicated members joining us both in person and online. The chairman, Mr. Isaiah no, he had reached out to me, and at first I was like, this SACCO is based in the UK. But the more I did research, the more I realized, my goodness, this is truly a diaspora SACCO. You know, I heard that there's folks in Australia. I heard there's folks all over the European Union, and now obviously we are trying to, get more. That the US is coming up and trying to show its power that we are here too as well. And so it's truly amazing to see that, as a Kenyan SACCO, there's not a whole lot of diasporas that are very diverse, especially when we talk about the diaspora. So I'm very proud of that. And so give yourselves some credit here for creating a truly diaspora SACCO that accommodates all of us across the diaspora. And because this is a Kenyan gathering, so let me say this, all protocols fully observed, respected, and of course, WhatsApp approved, because all of us belong to a WhatsApp group. Otherwise, someone will say, or will send me a message saying later that, Mheshimiwa, you forgot to recognize me, or you forgot that person. So if I don't recognize you, please excuse my oversight. So let me also start with something we all know, right? Kenyans understand two things, especially us in the diaspora. We understand hard work, and then we also understand chamas. And if you put 5 Kenyans in a room long enough, what happens? You will forget, you will come up with a SACCO, a chama will form. Someone will say, let's contribute kidogo too. And then before you know it, someone has become the chairman, someone has become the secretary, and a chama has been formed. But that instinct to come together financially is not just cultural, right? It's about economic wisdom, and that's how we've always came together and empowered ourselves together as a community. And so SACCOs are simply a more structured and more powerful version of the same. And so with that, before I jump into the theme that I was given today, let me acknowledge, obviously, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your consistency. I know that we started talking about having it in Minnesota. And during that time, that's when, if most of you remember, that's when we were having, the immigration enforcement here in Minnesota. And so, I'm glad that the management team and the leadership team decided to move it to Texas because we were afraid that folks will not show up because of that. Obviously, time has passed. Immigration has left the state of Minnesota. But at the same time, too, even if we had it here with all of this weather, I'm glad that that decision was made to move it to Texas. And so I want to acknowledge a few people. Obviously, the chairman, thank you, and your whole entire SACCO team. And I want to acknowledge Team Minnesota, my aunt and my advisor, Belia, who just spoke earlier. She's always been a backbone of everything that I've done here in the state of Minnesota. My sister, Rispa, she's definitely a champion. If there's anybody that I know that is Team Kenya through and through with no questions is my sister Rispa. And also all of my friends down there in Dallas, Texas. It's always an honor to be in that same space with you. So the theme, governance and growth. When I was given that theme, I was wondering how do I intertwine governments and growth in of SACCOs, especially when we're talking about, is it from a perspective of the diaspora, wherever we are, or from Kenya? And so I thought about the power of a SACCO, right, is not just that it holds money, right? The power of a SACCO is the true trust of its people, right? When a SACCO has folks who trust in what they're doing, in the systems that are in place, in the compliance space. I really appreciated, the chairman, not the chairman, but the compliance officer who talked about we are all about compliance, and compliance is very important. Um, when you have strong compliance in place, people also follow because they know that they can trust in what the SACCO is doing. And trust is built through governance. So strong governance matters. That means there's transparency, accountability, strong leadership, responsible financial management, compliance with regulations, and systems that protect members' investments. The easiest way of killing a SACCO is to do what? For it to lose its branding on trust. When people don't trust a SACCO, they won't invest, they will not be consistent, and the sustainability of the SACCO dies. So because when people contribute money to a SACCO, they're not just depositing funds, they are depositing trust. You guys are building trust. Yes, money is the big part about being in a SACCO, but as a SACCO and leadership, you guys are building trust. And that trust must be protected with strong systems and responsible leadership. You guys are just celebrating 9 years. How many SACCOs? I would be really curious to know how many SACCOs have started and have died. But the fact that you guys are here, about to hit that 10 anniversary milestone, talks about and really goes into the tenacity and the resilience and the trust of the leadership. And every year, or when you guys choose your leadership, it has proven to be true. It has shown the fruits because of how strong the SACCO has begun. And I'm curious to really hear the numbers of how the SACCO has grown this year. So the role of systems and compliance. So for a SACCO to grow and remain sustainable, it must also have strong systems in place. Systems that ensure what? Proper financial oversight, making sure that even when, there's compliance audits, there's no fear. We are here, we open our books, we are ready to go because we have nothing to hide. Strong compliance frameworks. And again, like I said earlier, I'm excited to hear that you guys have strong compliance frameworks in place. Clear policies and procedures. Making sure that people know exactly what to expect. I loved the young lady, Wakili, who talked about, hey, let me clarify a few things here. This is how, to make the process much easier and faster to get things approved. And it's up to the members to also adhere to those procedures and policies. Having strong risk management systems in place is key. And then lastly, transparency for members, especially us in the diaspora, right? We are most of us live in the Western world where we pride ourselves in transparency, accountability, and convenience, right? And so making sure that SACCO has systems in place to continue building that trust. So those systems are especially important as SACCOs grow larger and handle more investments. So yes, have strong systems in place, but also create flexibility enough to the point where it can accommodate the flexibility of the changing environment that you guys are in, especially as you now increase your revenue, increase membership, and then also increase membership in various areas. Maybe different countries have different regulations that you have to adhere to. So those systems also needs to be flexible enough to accommodate that. Because growth without governance can lead to instability. But growth with strong governance and compliance leads to sustainability. And so before I continue, and let me just mention a little bit about sustainability. And sustainability is what allows SACCOs to serve members, not just today, but for future generations to come. I was just looking at the leadership, and I was looking at as you guys are panning through the room, and I was scanning through the folks on online. I noticed there's not a whole lot of young people, and so when we talk about generations to come, how is the SACCO thinking about enticing and bringing value to the young generation of Kenyans who are growing in the diaspora? Right? Who are now slowly realizing that they have an identity back home where it's now something that we take pride in. How do we also bring that young generation into the fold to make sure that they understand what the importance of a SACCO and their role in it? In the past, I used to invest heavily in Kenya. Many of us, send money home in billions, especially in the diaspora. But that money literally goes to survival mode, not economic growth. And so let me talk a little bit about the diaspora and economic investment. Let me recognize the importance of role of Kenyan diaspora in this space. Every year we all know that Kenyans living abroad send billions of dollars back home. In fact, remittances from the diaspora now exceed $4 billion, not shillings, dollars annually to Kenya. For many years, much of that money was used primarily on what? The day-to-day support of upkeeping family members, right? It goes to school fees, medical bills, household expenses, family emergencies. But something powerful is happening today through SACCOs. More and more diaspora communities are now using SACCOs as an investment tool, as an investment vehicle. Instead of money only going and supporting daily survival, it's also now being used for what? For land investment, real estate investment development, agriculture, business startups, infrastructure projects, and community economic developments. I really want to, this is not an endorsement, but I want to acknowledge one of the sponsors, Octavan. One of the reasons why I actually want to acknowledge them is because they are consistent in their work. I have seen them being engaged in community, right? There's spaces where I go and they're there sponsoring. That goes to show you that their commitment to community and actually their work it has been trusted, especially here in the diaspora. So shout out to Octavan, and they are also a part of this investment part of now how diaspora is investing in Kenya. Since most of us will not be going there and living there, we have to think differently. If that means investing there and bringing more value, not only for extended family back home, but also for next generation, the SACCOs is the best way to go. And a SACCO like Stoke SACCO is one of those SACCOs that have proven time and time again the trust within the community, the diaspora community, that they are doing things the right way. So governance enables investment. But none of this investment is possible without strong governance, right? Diaspora members are trusting SACCOs with their hard-earned money earned through years of sacrifice, working hard in the diaspora. That trust must be protected through responsible boards, transparent reporting, regulatory compliance, and ethical leadership. And that's what Stoke SACCO continues to do and prove to its members. When governance is strong, confidence grows. And when confidence grows, what follows? Investment grows. Now, instead of somebody just saying, this is just my monthly contribution, they're going to add on top of that because they can trust that their money is being invested well. So here's my challenge to everybody today. For the next generation, there's a challenge that we must talk about, honestly. And that challenge, again, for me, I'm passionate about women and young people. How are we engaging this group? Because a lot of the diaspora, many of these members in the diaspora, especially women, are now heading households in terms of, working and contributing. How are we engaging, women to come into the SACCO, and especially young people? Many SACCOs around the world face the same issues, right? Young people are not always joining. Why is that? right? Because the younger generation sometimes sees SACCOs as an institution for their quote parents, right? But the reality is that SACCOs can be a powerful platform for young economic empowerment. Young people today are interested in entrepreneurship, technology, digital finance, investment opportunities, and the SACCOs must evolve to meet the generation where they are. That means embracing technology, embracing digital access, creating youth-focused investment opportunities, and offering financial education. There's a gentleman who talked about, I think, I don't know, uh, the director of partnerships. He talked about how he's using technology to interact with people in different time zones, right? Not everybody's going to be on a call at the same time, right? And so how are you using technology to entice these two different categories of folks, especially young people? Because the future sustainability of a SACCO depends on bringing the next generation into the system early enough in time. So community is the foundation. At the end of the day, if you haven't learned anything from me today, the strength of a SACCO is not just its financial assets, it's its people. When the SACCO invests and does right by its people, the SACCO succeeds when members remain committed, when leadership remains accountable, when government remains strong, and when the community continues to bring in the power of collective progress. That's when you will see that sustainability growth that we are talking about. So here are my final thoughts before I close out. Let me leave you with this thought. When Kenyans come together, incredible things happen, and we have seen that. And we have a role, whether we like it or not. If you are passionate about Kenya, I mean, the fact that you are part of this SACCO tells me that you are passionate about our country. Me, I am, and I'm using my platform to somehow give back to my country, right? And here is our opportunity, as Kenyans, when we come together, we also have a role to play in the growth of our country. We are going to build businesses in Kenya. We are going to educate our children. We are going to invest in land, support families, and create opportunities. And Stoke SACCO represents one of the most powerful ways our community can contribute doing exactly that. Not just for today, but for the future of the country that we all love, Kenya, right? So with that, I want to once again say thank you to the leadership of Stoke SACCO for the work that you continue to do, for the accountability and trust and the care that you are giving to your members that continue to invest day in and day out, that continue to believe that this SACCO is greater than just one person, that is a collective effort. And also the shout out to the folks, to the team in Kenya, because we know us in diaspora, we are very particular about how we want our things done. So shout out to the Kenyan team that is holding it down there in the office. And so I want to quickly, as I wrap up, just once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you. And to also acknowledge that when we, again, as diaspora, come together and we talk about what growth looks like, when we talk about, mobilizing around a common goal, this right here is a great example of that. This is how we are going to create that generational. In the US, we have this generational wealth. This is how we are going to build that generational wealth, not only for ourselves right now, but for our children and the next generation to come. Even though Minnesota weather kept me from being there physically together, please know that I'm honored to be a part of this conversation. And I am still rooting for Minnesota for next year. Let's make it maybe around May, April, around there, because Minnesota weather can be very bipolar sometimes. And so I want to finish my speech by acknowledging Senator Asige. I know she's going to have her moment to address this crowd, but I'm always inspired when I see women step up and lead. I am inspired to see that all of us, especially our men, supporting our women lead. Getting into this space didn't just happen overnight. The community here in Minnesota, especially our men, have lifted me up and created this opportunity where now You know, we can proudly, as Kenyans, say we have our own there. Who was born in Kenya? Yes, Obama. Yes, we celebrate it. But to be the first to be elected here as a Kenyan born is truly been a privilege. And I didn't do that by myself. And so when I see amazing women leaders in leadership, I'm so proud. So I'm excited to hear what the senator has to say. I've never met her personally. One of these days, I will make a point to meet her. But going back to the leadership of this SACCO, I applaud you. I give you your flowers because it's not easy to keep a Kenyan SACCO going as long as you guys have kept it. And hopefully, the 10-year anniversary will be in Minnesota so we can show you. Yes, Texas, they say they do things big, but Minnesota, we do it bigger. So I welcome you all to Minnesota, where we will have a great time and continue with this power of unity, because I always believe that we are stronger together. Asanteni sana, and thank you so much, Chairman, for your leadership.